you for everybody who is attending. I'm Corey. I'm the Director of Client Services for Feature.fm. And also on this webinar is my co-host Daniel Sander, who is the Chief Commercial Officer for Feature.fm. So if you see him in the comments, say hi to him. He likes when people say hi. This week, we're going to be talking about marketing channels, activities, and some other fun things on the Feature.fm platform to sort of help you get better use out of the platform. I think to start with, I'll just briefly go over what a smart link is and what a pre-save is, because those are going to be essential to the presentation today. So this is what the Feature.fm homepage looks like when you have an account with us. It's split up by what we call artist folders. So when you have an account and you create a smart link or a pre-save, we always encourage folks to set up artist folders so that you can keep them more organized. Please don't judge my music tastes between the weekend and share. These were just examples that I set up. So for a smart link and a pre-save, generally we recommend that you set up a pre-save about 30 days before a release is going to come out. From a strategic standpoint, if you are here for this whole webinar, you'll see what kind of stuff you can track and how you can use that information if you are able to do it for 30 days. If you aren't, it's not an issue at all. We just always like to encourage people to get as much use out of the platform as possible. And a smart link is generally exactly like a pre-save, except for it's after a release has come out, and there's a bunch of different data functions that you can use that for. I can walk you through setting one of those up right now, just so we have one to use throughout this presentation, so it's less confusing for folks. So yeah, so we'll click into the weekend here. This is what it looks like when you click into an artist folder on the platform. As you can see, we have many different functions that you can do. For our webinar today, we'll be creating a smart link. So this is essentially what it looks like when you are just setting up a smart link. We like to encourage people to use the UPC or ISRC when you can, because it's just easier. All of the little green icons are platforms that we auto scan. So when your release comes out, if you've inserted your UPC or ISRC as the identifying scan source, it'll automatically convert. So let's look up the weekend right now and we'll add one. You can also use a Spotify URL as the identifier as well, which is what we're going to do this. So you would just enter it in here, click scan. This release is already out, so again, this is why we're using a smart link. For a pre-order or for a pre-save, you would use a UPC or ISRC. It's just the easiest option. So for this, you can see it automatically populates. There are some instances in here where we have to manually add these. So we put in the Apple Music URL and the iTunes URL for this. So this is what it would look like. It has a preview of the song. You would click next. We're just going through this really quickly because we're using this for something else. Here you're able to fully customize the title, the description. You can adjust the preview source, so you can select a preview source that's automatically pulled in from the scan source, or you can actually enter one in yourself. It could be any of these. For the MP3, we suggest hosting that on your website or another file sharing service where it's open, so we can put it in there. For this case, we'll use here. And then it displays a default order of stores. For this is actually populated in a different section that I'll cover briefly in a moment. You click save once all this is filled out. Yeah, so we'll go back here. This is where the links would live for this artist when you're creating them. The pre-save process is essentially the same process. we'll walk you through that in a different webinar in the future, but it's essentially the same process as setting up a smart link. For this in particular, we're going to go over how to share a smart link. So as well, on one of your marketing channels, so that you can sort of use the data on your feature.fm. So if you look over here, we have 3 articles that were included in the invite for this that we'll also send as a follow-up. But essentially what you're able to do is you're able to use your smart link URL as part of a digital marketing campaign. So there's some basic instructions here on where you would get this information. So you would click on the Get Link button here. And as you can see, there's a few different options for you to choose from. This article that we'll shoot over to you goes sort of a little bit more in depth, if you aren't following along, to be able to track these links in the back end of the platform. So you're able to use this for a press release if you have a press release, this on Instagram if your artist uses Instagram, and you're able to actually track the activities for your fans for that artist on the back end, and I'll show you where in a second. So you're able to see where all of the traffic sources are coming from for that campaign. There's also the advantage of using these as direct links. So you can actually use direct links to platforms by just clicking on the little plus button. And you get direct links to wherever you would like to share. So if you're going to select Spotify, it would take you directly to Spotify. And I would open this, but that would be annoying. So you're able to actually open up these links and have them go directly. If you don't want to have them go to just the landing page that would show up, which is what this is what it looks like. Now there's other options for doing direct links or direct store links. You can do the way that I just showed you, or you have the ability to go back into edit link. And this would edit the entire link to just go to one source. So you would go to link settings. And then there are options here to enable conditional routing rules. So you would just select if device or channel, all, and then go back down and select which service you'd want them to go to directly. And then you would just click save in the upper right-hand corner. So those are 2 ways where you can go, where you can edit the existing link to just go to one direct link, or you can go here to the smart link directly and just select which platform you want it to go to and just click on the plus button. So that is it for direct links. Now, last week we went over paid channels. So you have the ability to also track paid promotions that you're using the platform with. So last week we went over Facebook audiences and Instagram as well as Google. So you can actually use these links here in the same way to track organic channels as you would paid channels. The difference between organic and paid is very simple. Paid is where you're actually running ads or you're running paid promotions, and organic is like your artist Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, where you're organically posting and driving traffic to the feature.fm link. So for this, if you wanted to do an Instagram ad, you would just click on this and you could select Spotify, and it would be a link that would track what users from that Instagram ad that you were running click through to Spotify. Now you're probably asking, well, where's all of this tracked in the link so that I can see that insight? And that's actually on this little graph right here, the insight tab. So you would click on this and it would take you to here where you could actually see where people are clicking. So I clicked on the press release link directly and that tracked here. Also just the original link where I showed you guys right here, you can actually see the original. So this is a really cool tool to use if you want to see where all of your traffic sources are coming from. I like, as a digital marketer myself, I like to always use the organic links so that I can track which platform is most popular for my artist, because the artist could have 1 million followers on Facebook, but only a 10% conversion for social and interaction. And it's really a compelling case to be able to see what that looks like here, because you're able to more efficiently target your audiences for paid. Another really cool part of this as well is you're able to actually add activities. And let me show you what that is. So it's essentially the same concept as tracking for your link clicks. It's just a little bit more customized. You're actually able to add like a custom activity to the end of your feature.fm link. So say that you wanted to track, I don't know, you wanted to track Enrique Iglesias for some reason with the weekend's release, you would just take the link that we already have for the release from the back end here. Let's go back to this. You would just take it like this. And then go back to, sorry, not the article, you would go back to your insights and you'd be able to track people using that. There are other instances for why people would actually want to use that. But if you were going to use this type of function, you can see here that the activity shows up on the Insights tab underneath Activities. You could actually see that, like, if you were going to do an Instagram post and you had, you know, a band of 5, you could actually add the name of the band member at the end of the string, like up here, like I showed you. And you'd be able to track which band member has the most activity from the song clicks that you've shared on Instagram. It's also a great way to use, it's also a great thing to use if you're doing different ad variables. So what that means is if you're doing a pre-order and a pre-save campaign and tour dates, you'd be able to use the same feature.fm link right here, but you could add the activity at the end, which could be tour dates. So you could track the conversion of fans clicking on the tour dates. You could track Instagram. You could track the Instagram pre-order post that you just did with Instagram IG pre-order at the end. You could track it with IG pre-save, so you know how many people are being drawn to particular parts of your campaign. Those are the best use cases that I can think of off the top of my head that I would use these for. This is just a very cool way for you to sort of keep all your data organized within your account, and also a really easy way for if you're actually going to use this, to track the amount of people that are going to Spotify or Apple Music or Deezer and really look at sort of where your fans are headed. Because there's only so much data, as we all know, on the back end of Spotify or Deezer or Apple Music or Amazon now. Another part of this that we're going to cover was sort of the strategy around what you would use with marketing channels and what you would do with a smart link if you wanted to use one. Generally, I like to advise people to include smart links in their bios for all of their artists, so you're able to track the activity that way. It's really compelling when you're able to just, you know, see where all of the information is coming from on the back end. In this case, I would also probably want to create a pre-save for, you know, 30 days out of when my artist is releasing a release. So in this section, you're able to actually add the release date for the upcoming release that you have. So we'll set this for April 17th. We'll enter the scan source, which is going to have to be not Enrique Iglesias. It's already available, but for example's sake, we'll use this. So for the pre-save function, for pre-save, you would enter in the link once it's available, or you could just leave it empty if you're using the UPC or ISRC. For post save, this is where you can get really creative and you can add in things that you'd like to promote for your artists. So it doesn't have to be a Spotify link. It can really go wherever you want. I know that I would use this probably for tour dates. So I would want to put my tour dates here to promote a pre-sale that I have coming out. And then you'd be able to add in whatever you'd like. Let's add in the artists. So you can add in for them to follow the artist after they've pre-saved the new track. Let's see, Apple Music. You do have the ability to pre-add an Apple track or pre-save a Deezer track as well. These will be added if you automatically when you create the link, but if you would like to use the UPC or ISRC, that's what we would suggest doing because it'll auto scan all of these. You are also able to add a store in here from multiple stores across the web, so feel free to add in here. I would also want to add in my artist website. Let's see. So this is where you can get super interesting. You can upload an artist image, which will populate right here. You can enter in the title. All of this is fully customizable and up to you. I always like to put in the name of the release and the artist's name. And then you're able to choose, you can edit in here like this release is coming out this date, or choose your preferred music service as the default. You can add in a post-release description. So this would happen automatically and would convert once your release is automatically out. So you could actually put in here like my release is out now. Again, you can edit the preview source. So you could put in other here. Any of these will work, including a custom Spotify. We could put in not the artist link, but we could put in the Spotify link. And then I put in an album. We'll just leave that empty for now. But you can put in the preview and that would show over here with a little button. Over here, you're able to edit the store. So if you have more fans on Apple Music and you don't want Spotify to be the first, you can edit that. You can put in Deezer over Spotify. You can pretty much edit this however you see fit. The really cool thing with the platform is you're also able to utilize these three features. I know that I showed you guys how to do the direct link already with the conditional routing rules, but there's also a way to use the enable idle timeout redirection. So what this does is if somebody clicks on your link after you've shared it, you're able to have them automatically go to a service of your choice if you just select on one from this drop down here. So you can select from any of these. And after 15 seconds, the person will automatically be directed there. I can show you what that looks like really quickly. After this is saved. Which we won't be able to do because it's already out. But anyways, that's what would happen if you were able to edit the release. I guess the next thing we could cover are what the insights for this would look like. So for this, in this case, if I'm running a pre-save and I have the objective for my marketing campaign to drive all of my streams to Spotify or to Apple Music, I would go in here and I would select get link. And then I would automatically enter in here Spotify. And then I would put in here the different tags for where my artist would be posting. So I'd put Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and obviously YouTube in there. That's how I would use those, and then I would share those out across the artist's properties. For different objectives that you have for your campaigns, I'm happy to suggest how you could best organize the insights, but that's pretty much the extent for which you can track all of your activities and all of the different links that you can create on the platform. There is a few other things that I wanted to show you guys in terms of releases. So you are able to add an email collection to your pre-saves. I always suggest that folks do. Super easy to be able to get fans to subscribe, and then I'll show you in a few minutes how you can sort of use that. We will be doing an entire webinar on audience segmentation and email lists, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. Once you've had that done, you can also display icons on your page. So this pulls in automatically from the artist folder settings. You're able to enter in like their Facebook page, or I'll just enter one in so you guys can see what it looks like. You're able to also enter in all of the rest of these. Once you have them filled out, they'll all fill in here. One cool thing that we have is the ability to enter in a TikTok URL, so you can actually promote your artist's sounds on TikTok. You can also enter in a website here or whatever it is that you want to try to drive people to. Most use cases I've had, it's for tours. You also have the ability to edit the social cards. For this, I would actually suggest customizing the image, because this is pulling in from the default image that you have for the smart link. So you can edit this. The sizing is here. You can edit the title and the description for both before the release comes out and then also afterwards. I would suggest doing that if you have the opportunity to. It's incredibly useful. Another really cool part of this that we also briefly touched on last week was the ability to add your pixel information to Facebook and Google on the back end of these links. This is also a great tool to have as a digital strategist, because you're able to use that information to retarget and build custom audiences. We have a whole webinar that we did last week on that we can include in our blast today if you guys weren't able to catch it. But that's essentially what most of the use cases would be for the pre-save, and sort of how you can utilize the activities and where you could see all the insights. We're going to go back to the smart link really fast, because I know that sometimes we have questions about how people can set up releases when they have multiple UPCs and they only have rights for certain territories. So if you work for a record label and the label only has the rights for Canada and the United States, and the rest of the world is a completely different UPC or ISRC for whatever the restrictions are for the deal terms, you actually have the ability to set up a few links and then use those as part of one worldwide release. I can set that up. I can show you guys what that looks like. So in that case, you would want to set up, I would suggest 3 links. So you would have one for the US, one for the rest of the world, and then one general one. So for that, you would just go in here. You would select the release date, which it's already out. So, nope, don't want my feature to open. Link in there. So because this is already out, you don't necessarily have to have it convert. I'm going to say this is already out. We'll leave the auto scan function open. So in here, I would put the weekend, and then I would put US. For this example's sake, I'm just going to fill in the details that we need to. And then I'll come back to the parts that we have to edit. And then in here, I would add the rest of world. You don't have to do it this way, just for this example's sake, it's just the easiest. So you'll see here that you can like separate the two audiences by the US and the rest of the world. Then I would just add in the weekend here. So you can see here we have 3 different links. So for the US, this will cover just the United States. For the rest of the world, this will cover everywhere but the US. And then this will be our proper release link, where this one will be shared. This one right here will be shared universally by every label without regard to their territory restrictions. So for the US, we'd click on this and you would enter in, we'll just say that we're just going to use Spotify for this release. So here, when anybody from the US comes to this link, they're going to go here, and you're able to customize this. You can break it out by different territories. So if you only have the rights for like Europe, you can break it out by the countries that you have the rights for. And anytime anybody enters, accesses the URL based off of their IP address in Germany or in France or wherever you have this actually set up for, you're able to then have them go directly there. So for this, we'll say this is for just the US, and then we'll click next. We'll click save on this. We'll go back to the main page and we'll go to the rest of world. So again, we're just doing Spotify for the example, but you can edit the territories for any of these DSPs, like you can see here. Now in some territories, there are different stores that you want to highlight. You're able to do that. You can add in a store here. So if you have like a different link for Apple Music in Australia, or if it's an Asian DSP that you want to highlight, you're able to do that. Also, Boomplay is in here as well. Generally for the territory restrictions, a lot of folks use this for when they're trying to have like a certain release partner. We can do Boomplay for this one. So for Boomplay, if anybody accesses Boomplay, we'll have them go here, but if they're going to access Boomplay from Canada, we can have them go to a different link. We can have them go to the artists page. So for this, you would then save the territory restrictions once you selected this. Now the hack, you can use this for any of the editing of the stores. We suggest using the 2 feature.fm links because you're able to still track the pixels. You're still able to track the activities that you've set up in the sources of traffic when you have these split out by like the regions that you want them to be in, or the regions that you have rights to. So then for the main one that we have, we'd go in and edit these countries, and this would be the main link that would be shared out across the world that we'd recommend all of our partners use. I would go in here and I would just, 1 second. I would have the default link be the album, but I would split it up by territory. So for rest of world, I'd put in these links so people are able to access them. And then we're not going to fill out every single country because this is only 45 minutes and I want to answer all your questions, but you have the ability to break this out even further by countries. And then for the US, you would enter in the US link that we built out. So click next. Make sure that a preview source is selected. And then you would just click save. And that's how we suggest that it's done. You do have the ability, if you'd like to, on the territory basis, to you can actually add the countries that you want to have custom stores in. So for that, you would go to the artist folder, which I can show you how to access that. You would just click on here and click on artist settings. So for links, you can have different default stores set for the account overall, and then as well as territories and the stores that you want to be able to customize. I know that a lot of folks hit us up that are current customers that are always asking about how to set up restrictions for certain territories, so I hope that that helps. That is pretty much all that I wanted to cover today, so I can take some questions from folks. Let's see. Yes, the replay is available. Another scenario for how to use this. I mean, a lot of folks don't use the platform as intended for tours. I think that a really great thing that you could use the platform for that another great thing that you can use the platform for that you probably wouldn't necessarily think of is for tours. So for that, I would create, there's a few things that you could do that I think could be really cool to utilize the marketing channels. For the smart links, I would create one that is for the tour. So I normally, when I worked for a management company, most of the stuff that we did for tour announces would be routed with a single release or an album release. So I would say, for this sake, we'll do like a fake tour for the weekend since nobody's leaving their house at the moment. So we can enter in, we'll enter in the after hours. Again. Now for me, I would then add my website in here with the tour, which it's not going to let me do because I didn't add in. There it is. So you could add in here the official website for the artists. Click on next. Edit the default display order so that the tour was showing up. And then you could put on here tour. So for this, I would, if I'm promoting the tour dates, I would only put the top DSPs in here, so you can actually deactivate stores if they're not going to be useful for the needs that you have for your release. Let's say for this, it's going to be a domestic US tour, so internationally, we're probably not going to use Deezer. For Pandora, we can talk about that one, but for me, mainly, these would be the 4 DSPs that I would use along with highlighting for my tour dates. If I was going to enable title idle timeout redirection, I would enable that to my official site so that you could have them go to the tour page if they're on there for an extended amount of time. I would edit this so that it said tour dates are on sale March 31st. Then I would go to the email collection, turn that on. Making sure that people have subscribed to your email collection is incredibly useful for tours because you're able to segment the audience, which we will cover in a future webinar, but it's extremely useful. For the social icons, I would display those. I would keep that as a default for anything. I would make sure that my website is on here. I need to amend an earlier statement. This is purely where you could put like your artist's TikTok URL and then it would take them to the artist page on TikTok. I will show you how to do the use my sounds. That is actually in a future webinar, but I will show you how to do that. Then I would click save on here, making sure that my artist pixels are inserted and that I've done a custom image for my social cards. Okay, now we have another link. So for this, I would actually suggest using the activities channel. And when you share out the tour dates, you're driving folks generally to Ticketmaster or Eventbrite or to any of the slew of tour date listing services. But what I would do is I would use the activities channel in a different way. So I would actually put the cities in and make one for each date on the tour. I know that sounds cumbersome, but if you're doing geo-targeted posts on Facebook, it's going to be incredibly useful to see how many people are actually clicking to get that information on here. So that would be something that you could do. Another way that you could use this for the tour, if the release is already out, is you could actually go back to the preview source. So I would go back to editing my link. And then going back to my link settings. So you have the option to put in the preview source for the release. I would actually select other and put together and put in an audio liner from the artist saying, hi, like this is the weekend, I'm heading out on the road, tickets are on sale March 31st. Get first dibs on tickets by clicking the subscribe button below. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. That type of like customization is so useful with marketing, and you can get super creative with it. Again, these are not like traditional uses that a lot of folks think of when they think of the platform, but you're able to. Let's see if anybody has any more questions. Okay. So one user said, hi, so can you have one link, but depending on where your geo is, it can go to different endpoints. For example, one main Spotify link, but goes to different playlists depending on the country without a pivot page. Yeah, you can put in any link that you want into the section. So he's talking about this section right here. Let me show you guys. He's talking about this part right here where you could enter in different links. Yes, you could put in Spotify links here. You can put in any link that you'd want. I wouldn't suggest personally driving to playlists. It seems somewhat misleading in the case of like a smart link, because generally the user is going to want to go directly to that artist's album, and it'll be incredibly annoying if you're driving them to like a discography playlist. I would actually save that as like a best practice for the pre-save. So where you have the option to add something to follow on the pre-save. Let me go back to the pre-save. So you actually have the option to add what action you want the user to take. Which is this the pre-save? Right here. So after pre-saving, fans can follow the artist, or you could actually put in a discography playlist here. This is where I would suggest putting it. Um, I don't advocate for like that seems sort of bait and switch with regards to like marketing for an album release. Here, the user would expect that be they would be asked or prompted to follow a playlist and the artist, and then they get the option to. I hope that helps answer the question. The next question: how would you set up a release for Africa, East and South? That is a very specific region of Africa. Well, Africa is a continent, so you would need to break up the same way that we broke up the releases for the US and rest of world. You would break it up by the country. So gosh, Eastern Africa. So if like you wanted to do like Kenya and South Africa as different territories, you would just follow the same steps as we went through earlier in the webinar, which will be available for you to follow. But yeah, you can split it up any way you want. All the territories in the world are outlined in feature.fm. You would just have to make sure that you carve them out as we showed you earlier. Another question. What if I want to promote a playlist same way I do an artist? You can do that using the platform. You would follow the same steps. You would just edit it so that it was a playlist and not an artist. If you're going to make it a playlist instead of an artist, I would actually suggest more than one playlist, because I'm going to guess you're probably like a third party network. So if you're going to do more than one playlist, I would suggest putting in a bunch of different options for the user to follow in the same way that I just went through. The next question is, what does artist defaults mean for these social profiles? So every artist folder that you set up on the platform right here has the option of artist settings. So when you click on artist settings, this is the settings for that specific artist folder, meaning these would be the defaults for that artist folder. So if I wanted to add all of the social links for my artist, The Weeknd, I would be adding that in here underneath the profile section. So where it says Spotify artist page, website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of these good things. All of these right here would be the defaults that would show up on the social icons tab that I showed you earlier. You are able to override those sometimes if you want to change, like if you have a landing page on your website and you want to change that so it's not the main part of the site, you can edit that. But I always suggest that when you create an artist folder, you fill these in, because you'll forget about these. And it's really annoying to have to fill them in for multiple artists. Okay, looks like we have another question. Hi, for pre-saves, I noticed the percentage of people who successfully pre-save is significantly less than the clicks. If the user is logged into their Spotify or Apple Music on their device already, is it possible to bypass the login screen? I think this would increase the percentage of successful pre-saves. So you're asking if the user is already logged into their Spotify, is it possible to bypass the login screen? Generally, it's not, no, because we have to follow GDPR compliant and other laws of the land, which take user data very seriously. So them having to authenticate through their Spotify or Apple Music account is actually a part of the process, and it's an important part of the process. You generally don't want to have people just automatically be able to subscribe or follow something without actually giving you permission. If somebody has already followed your artist before on Spotify or Apple Music, then that could be a reason why, when somebody pre-saves a track and you offer them the opportunity to follow the artist, that they don't follow them because they already do. I see that a lot, where a lot of people are like, oh, well, 500 people pre-saved my artist track, but they only got 20 followers. And generally that's the reason that you can attribute it to. The next question is, two artists in a collaboration song, both being primary artists, we should create an account as a band. Um, if it's a collaboration song and there's two primary artists, I would suggest just having one link, and then you can actually give the other artist manager or team access to that specific folder. So you're actually able to do that. If you click on the artist settings again and go to user management, you're actually able to invite somebody. So you can invite and then you can give them specific access to different things. The access levels are all explained on the right-hand side here, and also when you give them access, what they would be able to edit. Yeah, that should cover that one. Another question? No, we don't have any more questions. There is somebody asking about, they want to hear a little bit more about organizing activities and maybe another scenario. I think this would be a good one for Dan to take because we have an account with some more data in it. Never mind, I was wrong question. It looks like we don't have any more questions. I can give, I guess, another example of how to organize activities. I thought the tour example was a good one. A record release. If you have, I guess, the two different artists as primary collaborators, like if it's a DJ with a feature from somebody, that would be a great one to do. So for that, if I was going to do that, I would select the artist folder for the artist that had the collab. Sorry, I did the wrong section. And I would get, so say it's a feature from Dua Lipa with, I don't know, Calvin Harris. Great idea. Whoever takes that, make $1 million. If I was going to do that, I would select the link that you had, and then I would divide it up by the artists sharing it. So I would say this exclamation point Dua Lipa, and then I would give the abbreviated version of the socials. So I'd do Facebook, Instagram, you can see this, YouTube, wherever you're trying to do that, maybe their website. So I'd put web here, and make one of these for each artist in the collaboration, and then you're able to track who drove the most traffic. You could even make a fun contest out of it, like the person with the most traffic driven gets the higher feature. That'll really win them over. Looks like, yeah, one question we have is, if I have made a smart link but the song still doesn't come out, is there a way to return it to pre-save? You would actually have to set it up as a pre-save. Generally, you don't revert things. If you set up a pre-save, it'll convert it to essentially being a smart link once the release comes out. So yeah, we don't have any more questions. Oh. Are there any other applications for the tags that could be used when all releases are similar styles, the same genre and mood? You're specifically talking about tags for like activities or tags for, sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the questions. If I was going to use the tags or the activities for releases, you could have it be anything that you want. It could be the mood, it could be the genre, it could be styles, it could be anything that you could create up to certain limitations. There's 3 limitations for when you're trying to for when you're trying to do the activities, and these are those three. So no punctuation after the exclamation point, no special characters, which are like ampersand, money sign, and the max is 50 characters. So other than that, you're pretty much able to do anything that you want. Yeah, I guess that is it. Thank you to everybody for coming. I hope this was useful. If anybody has any questions or wants any ideas for how you could better use some of these things, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always down for helping people with strategy. It's a huge passion of mine. Yeah, that's it. I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll see you guys around.